So, welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast. Sheena, it's great to have you on the show.
Hey, Cleanne, it's so nice to have to be on a guest on the show. I'm really honored. So just looking forward to our chat.
You're welcome. So, tell the listeners about you and what is your journey in uncovering your self-confidence?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Sheena Yapchan. I am a keynote speaker, Wall Street Journal bestselling author, podcaster, and strategist on helping women with their confidence and having women in leadership. That really stemmed from my upbringing. I moved to Toronto when I was 7 from the Philippines, and I never saw anybody in the media that looked like me. So I was always ashamed of who I was, my culture. I wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes to feel more beautiful and accepted. And it wasn't until my 20s when I dyed my hair back from blonde to my original hair color where I finally embrace being Asian. And in 2015, I was dealing with a lot of confidence issues, and I was looking for resources that specifically catered to Asian women, but of course, there wasn't any. And part of it I could understand because our culture doesn't tell us to talk about what we go through. And so in September of 2015, I launched my podcast called The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I've interviewed over 800 Asian women on this topic. Um, it's one of the top zero point 0.5 global podcasts. And as much as I love my podcast and what it's done, it's still podcasting is still a very small platform compared to other media platforms. And I knew I wanted to create better representation, have more visibility. And during the pandemic, a friend and I co-created a book called Asian Women Who Boss Up, which is part of a book series that highlights stories of Asian women sharing their own journeys to entrepreneurship, forging their path. And that led me to writing my first book with a major publisher. It's with Wiley, and it's called The Tao of Self-Confidence, How a Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within. And for me, that was really important because trauma is something we don't talk about as well. And a lot of people ask me, how do you build confidence? How do you build confidence? And I had to ask them, instead of telling you how to build confidence, let's start with what is the root cause that's really stopping you from moving forward, right? So I had less than 3 months to write the book. It came out in May of 2023 and became a Wall Street Journal best-selling book. And now I have my latest book with the same publisher called Bridging the Confidence Gap: How Empowered Women Change the World. And that really stemmed from a report from the World Economic Forum saying that gender parity would be achieved at the earliest in the year 2154. So, but unfortunately, that's when I wrote the book. So, in the current state that we're in, it's actually delayed 4 more years. So now it's 2158. So it's over 130 years before we see it. And I feel like at the rate we're going, it's going to be taking longer just because of what women go through all over the world. You look at like Afghanistan, where women's basic human rights are taken away. And so it's really important to help women see their potential, right? The gap that we have is how we perceive ourselves really stops us from moving forward. Women are so capable, more than capable, but how we see ourselves really holds us back. And because of that, we have less women in leadership, in industries. And yes, I know there's a lot of biases we still go through. I talk a lot about those biases in the book, but it's also up to us to make things happen, right? It's not going to be easy, of course. It's going to take a lot of pushback, but it's also going to be worth it, right? When you think about 133 years, think about it. We won't see it. Your daughters won't see it. Your granddaughters won't see it. Your great-granddaughters won't see it. Your great-great-granddaughters may or may not see it. So, I mean, when you think about that, it's almost 5 generations, right? And so for me, it's really important to have this topic on confidence, on leadership, and I also do talks for corporations, organizations, for events on this topic as well.
Nice. So, it's all about the stories that you tell yourself. Um, and we want to tell ourselves positive and good stories. So, Sheena, can you touch briefly on the 5 steps in taking your confidence to the next level?
My 5 steps. Okay. Can I do in like 3 steps?
You can do it in
Okay.
3 or even
I
2.
think 3 to 5 steps. So
Okay.
first, I think the most important part, which I never realized until I wrote the second book, was we must have courage. Courage comes before confidence, right? Because we all fear something. I mean, I have a lot of fears I had to overcome. I'm sure you had a lot of fears to overcome. And, being fearless isn't about having no fears. It's about feeling that fear and doing it anyway. So we have to learn to push through that, right? So an example was I was invited to be interviewed on a huge Chinese news network, and I didn't realize they had a really big following. I should have known better. It was based in China, and with the population, it would be a lot of people, right? But on Facebook, they had 110 million followers, and I almost had a heart attack. I almost had anxiety because this was live, and I went for it, right? And the host had a question he asked me, and I literally blanked out on TV. Like literally blanked out for like a good 10 seconds. And 10 seconds in TV time is like forever. It's like long. But if he didn't ask me a follow-up question, I wouldn't be here today. And so I realized that it wasn't so bad. I didn't die. I'm still here. And that made me so much more confident because I told myself if that was the worst I had to deal with, blanking out on national Chinese television, I can go out there and make it happen. So having courage is important. And then believing in yourself, right? Yes, it sounds cheesy, it sounds cliche, everyone's heard about it, but really it is important to believe in yourself because that's why we have a confidence gap right now. How we perceive ourselves stops us from taking action. So you have to know that even if you don't know what you're going to do, you're going to figure it out, right? You are capable to figure it out. So really believe in yourself. Know that you're going to make it happen regardless of the circumstances, right? Then you find ways to start building your confidence. What does that confidence look like? Do you like to read? Do you like to hire someone? Um, do you like to listen to audio? Things like that. You pick and choose what works for you and because we're all different, right? I had this huge misconception that confidence was one way, right? You had to be loud and boisterous and be out there when it's the total opposite. And so what works for me may not work for you. So this is why it's important to pick and choose what works for you and then take action. I know it's easier said than done, but taking action is scary. I get it. That's why we build the courage first so that we can do all these things and become the confident person that we're meant to be. So, but there.
Nicely said. So, what are some of the challenges and the opportunities that women face in leadership?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, as women, we're seen as natural born caretakers. So, we have to learn how to balance, right? Balance work, like work-life balance when really, for me, I don't think there's such a thing, right? It's impossible. Like you don't see men going out there trying to do a work-life balance, right? Because they go to work, they come home. Like we have to juggle everything. And I think the pandemic, the lockdown was a clear indication of that. You had to work a job or run your business from home. Then you had to homeschool your kids. You had to do chores. You had to prep meals. You had to help family members, and it gets exhausting, right? So that's one thing. I think there's no such thing as a work-life balance. And in order to even achieve what that may look like, you need help. Um, and there's no shame in that. Another thing is, as women, we've been seen as the superwoman, right? That we can do anything and everything, right? Having this notion that we can have it all. We can have it all, but not at the same time. And so we need to learn that part, saying like, yes, we can't have everything at once, but we can have it in different seasons of our life. And, we don't have to do everything ourselves. Having podcasts like this, having communities, having coaches or mentors to help you along the way, or having family to help you when times get tough, that will help us out to pursue what we want, right? Whether it's to take a leadership role or run a business. Also, how women are viewed in society, right? Well, I mean, when you look at something like self-promotion, right, which I talk about in this current book, self-promotion is something that is seen as tacky and not ladylike, right?
Mhm.
But if you're a businesswoman, if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, you're gonna have to go out there and promote yourself. You're gonna have to go out there and share your
Oh,
products and services. And for me, I want women to realize that self-promotion isn't tacky, it's empowering because that helps us build leadership skills and it helps us get seen. So it's really important to take away the notion that it's unladylike and it's not, and it's tacky. I mean, I'm sure a man I'm assuming a man probably said that. So that's another thing. And also sometimes the culture that we're in, right? There's certain traditions that we do that really doesn't make sense, but we do it for the sake of tradition, right? In the book, I share different traditions from different parts of the country that really stops us. Religion is another one, right? Depending on I'm not saying all religions are bad, of course, but there are certain religions that really bring a woman down, right? And it's unfortunate that they utilize religion to do that. So these are some of the factors. And of course, imposter syndrome, feeling not good enough, feeling there's someone better out there. I mean, we can go on. There's so many things. I feel like we're going to go overtime. So I'll keep it short, but these are some of them.
So Sheena, where can the listeners get a copy of your book? Do you have any resources on your website? And how can they connect with you on social media?
Yeah, for sure. First off, they can check out either of my books, The Tao of Self-Confidence or Bridging the Confidence Gap, on Amazon, um, the Barnes& and Noble, Indigo, and any other book retailers worldwide. You can check out my website, sheenayapchan.com, where I have a free self-confidence personality quiz that you can take. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all under Sheena Yapchan. But if you forgot anything that I mentioned, I'm literally the only Sheena Yapchan on the internet, so I'm really not hard to find.
Sounds great. So Sheena, I know you talked about imposter syndrome, but do you have any last words for the listeners about overcoming imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, this is one reminder that I love to give because I recently watched a Netflix show, and it starred Goldie Hawn's daughter as becoming the president of their family basketball team. And when she got appointed to that position, her brothers actually asked her if she was capable for the job. And how many times in our life have we been questioned our capabilities? I mean, I have so many times, right? I'm sure you have as well. And it's really frustrating because it's 2025 and we still get asked this question. So I want the listeners, especially the ladies out there, to know that even if give you that question, just know you are more than capable to make it happen. You may not know what you're going to do, but you know you're capable enough to figure it out, to pivot, to course correct. You're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect, but imagine the results that you'll have. Imagine the impact that you will create. So when you feel doubt, when you feel imposter syndrome, just know you are more than capable to make it happen.
Wow, nicely said, Sheena. Well, Sheena, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was such a blast.